October 26, 21, Barnesville Town Council meeting. I'll do a roll call to my right.
Dustin Doyle.
Ruth Ann Moore. James Ramel.
Andrew Greenwood.
If please stand for pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order under council business.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Tanya Smith, Adam Stone, and Trent Newport to the Road Impact Fee Appeal Board.
I have a motion by Mr. Greenwood,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Ball. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay. Next on our ordinance resolutions, 2021-12, approving certain matters in connection with amendments to consolidated economic development.
Good afternoon. This resolution is the third step of a four-part process to amend the TIF districts. This has already been through the Redevelopment Commission, the Plan Commission, and if approved by council, will go back to the Redevelopment Commission on November 11th, at which time there will be a public hearing. I believe in your packets you have maps of all the different changes that we are proposing. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Do you need to adopt this?
This would be an item for your approval today.
Okay.
I'm ready. Go ahead. You got it?
I move to approve resolution 2021-12, approving the matters in connection with the consolidated economic development area.
Second.
I have a motion, Mr. Well, I'll say by Ms. Qualls. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. None opposed. Sure. Next, what is 2021-21?
Yes, this is the general obligation bond for the police station project. And I don't know if that's Kim or Brian
We can just both come up. I think nobody-
wants to speak to that, but
You start and then I'll back in.
Good afternoon. So today we're talking about the financing for the police station and the bonds. So we have kind of some updated schedules on that. And you have the ordinance in front of you that Kim will go into more details on. We are at that point in time where we do need to make a couple of decisions for the sale of the bonds. We can talk through that. This should look very familiar to some schedules you saw recently. This is assuming a bond issue of about $2.6 million. To raise $2.6 million of the funds for the project. So that leaves $1,260,000 that will be coming from other sources of funds that we've talked through, different buckets that the town has. We looked at doing this bond issue a couple different ways. One is rated and one is a non-rated financing. Looked at that quite extensively, and we've come back with the recommendation that we want to do this as a rated transaction. Just given where we're at with the size of the bond issue being over $2.5 million, it's a 20-year bond issue. So the length of the bond issue as well really lends itself to that. And with the rate differential between the two, it really makes a lot of sense to go that route. There is a cost obviously associated with getting a rating, probably around $15,000 for the rating. But what it looks like, the difference in annual payments is about $15,000 as well. So basically, after a year, you've recouped that cost of that rating, and that would save $15,000 a year, about $300,000 over the life of the bonds, estimated, doing it as a rated transaction. So that's what we built into this model that you'll see on page 3. Those are kind of the estimated rates at this point in time. Payments about where we've been showing it all along, around $170,000 a year. That has not really changed. even with some of the fluctuations in the market, that's really kind of where we've been at this point in time. And the other piece is deciding if this needs to be done as a competitive sale or a negotiated sale. You have that flexibility doing it either way. That's built into the ordinance. It can be done either way. I know you're doing negotiated sales with Stiefel, and if you want us to simply reach out to Stiefel and say, hey, got something else for you, we could do that as well. Or we can go the traditional route of a competitive sale, which is very typical on general obligation bonds. But recently, the legislature gave that flexibility to go either direction. So that really is up to the town and what you want to do. I will say to close this by the end of the year, we don't really have time to go out and do an RFP process, to find somebody to do the negotiated sale. Kim and I were talking just timing wise. I don't think we have that amount of time to do that if you want to get this closed by the end of the year. And I know with the bids being, open in September, we've got really to about the first week in January before we'd have to go back and ask for an extension or kind of screw up that process with those bids. So timing is obviously a consideration there. So that's kind of where we're at. We've got the competitive, if you want to go that route, or the negotiated. Really with Stiefel or somebody else, if there's somebody else you want to do, we just don't have that time to go through and send out formal requests. So a number of different underwriters get those back after 10 days to 14 days, timing wise.
Yeah, I could just, this can,
I'll just tag off on that. So with the competitive, whether you decide either way, I don't think that it will make much of a difference on our end and with Brian either. But if you decide to do the competitive, we don't have to, because this new law, we can do kind of a competitive, which we've done with other individuals on the Baker Tilly team, is you don't have to do the full notice of intent or notice of bond sale, which takes up about a month's time. Because you have to publish those twice, 2 weeks apart, wait 15 days. It's just real painful. But you have the ability to kind of do what we would call competitive. Used to mean we do the notice of bond sales. Because you have this ability because of the new law, we can do it competitive, but it would just mean Brian would send out and use Parity or whatever you
Yeah, our bidding platform.
Yeah, their bidding platform, and says, hey, here's our deal. Here's what the rating is. We need all the bids in by noon on December 2nd or whatever they decide. So
It's kind of a modified process.
Yeah.
It's going to reach the same bidders that we would have gotten if we went out and did the notice. It's one of the same people. But it's kind of trimmed down some of that process that you have
and
to
trimmed
go
out
through.
the time, which is actually to your advantage, given that it's almost.
What do you believe the financial impact would be for not using Stifle?
If we did competitive,
How much
versus-
better do you think we would get, I guess, by doing competitive then? I mean, I would imagine that if we go do another deal with Stifle, they're gonna be pretty competitive based on.
I think on this, I think it's going to be very close.
I do too. It's a geo bond. I mean, it's just this very straightforward deal.
Right.
If it was a TIF deal, or if you were doing something
Yeah.
unique, that had a story behind it, that you really needed someone to kind of understand that. But Stiefel is going to be doing 4 other ones. So I think it's probably 6 1/2 dozen here, really. It's just up to you guys.
I would be comfortable and negotiated with these people, just because I'm, on the calls with them.
Yeah. And the stormwater is kind of similar to this deal, so you've got 3 revenue deals with them. So you're going to be water, sewer, electric, and then you've got stormwater, which is kind of a little more similar to
We'd
this.
still do the rating.
Yeah.
The rating
your
will be
process is
separate.
Still all the same.
So it'll be a separate rating process because the securities,
Yes.
property taxes behind
It's
this.
a possibility after they rate it, we may or may not have to have insurance on it. That could help get that basis down a bit. Is it the same process here?
That's correct.
Okay.
We haven't seen a lot of insurance on rated kind of general obligation
Hasn't
deals.
been necessary lately.
But that's, would be part of the process. We've allowed for that in the ordinance if it makes, financial sense to do insurance on the transaction. They're going to be familiar with the credit as well when they go out with some of their buyers. So I don't think you can go wrong going either direction on, on this one.
So would we need to then approve this ordinance and then clarify that we would go negotiated and approve obtaining a rated transaction.
Yeah, so my suggestion would be that you adopt the ordinance, because this ordinance is kind of the kitchen sink ordinance for you, meaning I put everything in there that you guys could do. You can go negotiate, you go competitive, you could sell it to Brian. No, just kidding, don't do that. So
You
it's,
may want to look into that.
this allows all those avenues. So I would suggest you adopt the ordinance first. Then you give us direction by a motion on which way you want to.
Okay, yeah.
Because this is the authorizing document, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of quickly give highlights on the ordinance real quick, just so you know what's in there.
Great.
So we get bond parameters from Baker Tilly. They give us the outside numbers. So you'll see in your bond ordinance, we've got an outside number of 2.7. They'll probably be lower than that, like Brian said. But again, these are just not to exceeds. It just means we don't have to come back for any reason. And given the time, we don't want to do that. Principal and interest will both be semi-annual, January 1, July 1. Final maturity will be at, like Brian said, no longer than 20 years, because that's a statutory limit for these bonds. And then I did allow, there's a form in the bond in there that we'll pull out and use it once we price the bonds and close. And then I did allow for any type of sale, negotiated or competitive in this. And it does say that you're going to use these for kind of general police station matters, which is that Exhibit A project description. Does anyone have any questions for me? One other thing, David, I would ask is that we adopt this today, sorry. So you need to suspend, so adopt it on first reading, make a motion to suspend the rules.
We actually, once you adopt it, we don't have to suspend the rules. As long as we make a motion to adopt.
If they all consider it for adoption, our view is that for a first reading, they have to have a majority considered for adoption, and all have to pass it at the first reading for it to be adopted. So if the motion to adopt is unanimous, our position has always been that that's
Oh, yeah.
all in one encompassing motion.
Yeah, however you do it, we definitely do need to make sure this is adopted today.
Right, we gotta get on.
I move to adopt ordinance 2021-21, the obligation bonds for the police station project.
Second. Motion by Mr. Doyle, second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you.
And then I would make a motion on your method of sale.
Are we good with negotiating?
Negotiated with Stifel
And the rated transaction.
and the rate. Yes. Want to make the motion?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion that the general obligation bonds for the police station building are negotiated and we utilize a rated transaction methodology.
A motion by Mr. Greenwood, a second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
And then two things. I'm going to have a notice that just a statutory notice when you issue general obligation bonds that needs to go in the paper that just gives the parameters of what you just adopted. So David, I'll send that to you to be published one time. I'll send you an email. The other thing is because these bonds were not in your budget for 2021, we need to do an additional appropriation for these. So I'll send you that notice. And then if you can just make sure that that gets done prior to closing. So we need to probably have that at your next meeting. Need 10 days before, but I can work out those details with you.
Yeah.
That just needs to be done prior to closing on the bonds. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we're going to table 2021, 22. Oh, that's right. Okay. First reading will be next. And we are removing the ordinance 2021-14. That's off the new agenda. Town council meeting schedule. Has everybody had a chance to review that? Right, well, I just think that this week, or has everybody looked at it? Are we good? Any questions or comments?
On the November 8th, we probably need to move that one, but we can do that later.
Yeah, we can do that.
Comment, I don't know if we'll-
This comes up November 8th.
It's the election.
That's this November 8th. You want to go ahead and make push 2022? Okay. We can do that at a later time then. Are you guys good with that?
So you want me to leave November 8th on the schedule?
You just want to move it to November 1st right now?
Is that,
Yeah.
we can move it to the 1st.
Just move it to the 1st.
You want to move it up or back?
I'd say move it up to, so we still have two, well, I guess it's 3 back-to-back no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, no, that one at the end is late. It'd be 2 weeks later. If you move it to the 15th. Because there's the extra weekend. in it.
Yeah, you can move it to the
Is
15th,
that
actually be
true?
better,
Yeah,
Dustin.
that's true.
To the 15th,
Okay, so we'll move that to the
November 15th.
the November 8th, November 15th. And are you guys okay with the 27th still, or do you just leave that?
What date? Oh,
December?
It's going to be December 20th. Tuesday, 20th, that's,
uh,
the 20th.
when we revisit that one.
Yeah. Last week, okay.
That's it.
Only,
maybe the right day
Yeah.
yeah.
to do it. So I think before Christmas would be even worse.
Yes,
Well, and we're
Let's
always
just leave
trying
it
to,
the
we're always trying to
27th.
get stuff done at that last meeting. That's
Right.
For the end of the year.
so we'll leave
But-
December 27th
As is.
as is.
Can we do that by consensus? Yeah, we'll do that by.
With the
consensus.
corrections, yeah. Okay. Holiday schedule. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't see anything. Let's see. Number 8. Primary. Paper. I think everything looks okay for me on the holiday schedule. Everybody, okay, by consensus, we're good on that one. Okay, and next, minutes from the October 5th. Has everybody had a chance to review? Is there any comments or corrections? How about a motion?
Motion to approve minutes from the October 5th, 2021 meeting.
Motion by Mrs. Moore, and a second.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Doyle. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. None opposed. Okay, claims for review. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Review. Got a motion?
Move to approve the claims. As presented.
Motion to approve the claims as presented.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay. Moving on. Good.
Thank you. First item I have for you today is we're starting to plan the event schedule for next year. So I have those in your packets. Like to start booking bands and other vendors for those events. So we can get that going for next year. So if I could get your approval on that, I would appreciate it. We may add some additional, but we're gonna start with that as the, kind of the base.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 10 event schedule as written here.
Can we add to close the street at the same time appropriately so we don't have to keep coming back?
That would be great if we could do that.
Okay. Just add that.
And to close the streets as appropriate during those times.
And Mr. Green.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I have a motion on Mrs. Moore, a second, Mrs. Qual. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
Speaking of closing the street, the railroad has informed us that they are planning to come for the Sanitary on the 3rd. So requesting to close Main Street from 2 to 8 for that event.
Mr. President, I move to approve the road closure Main from 2 to 8 p.m. on December 3rd.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Wells, second, Ms. Qualls. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Also, in conjunction with that, Main Street is planning to have a Christmas market that day out here. So they will be getting some vendors as well. So
That'd be awesome.
should be a good day.
Yeah.
Next item I have is the 2022 media relations contract. Laura Kennedy is here to speak to you about that. So go through a few slides.
Hi, good to see everybody. I wanted to take this opportunity to come see everyone in person and run through some of the highlights, things that we've worked on so far this year, and some of the things we're looking forward to doing next year. 2021 highlights in regards to media relations. I continued operating the town media email account that we created, which has been a really successful process as far as getting communication from media outlets. I assisted with coordinating media interviews and performed interviews when it was appropriate, when a staff member was unavailable or it was something that I could answer myself for the reporter. And each quarter, I have a call with the reporter from the IMPA newsletter that goes out to residents. I give her any press releases I've written, things that are going on, so that she has the most up-to-date information for that newsletter. And then again, wrote press releases as well this year. One of the big events that happened in Bargersville this year was Homerama at Aberdeen. That ended up being a lot of content work for this year. So I coordinated with Maggie in regards to the Welcome to the Town letter, images, things they needed for their handout that went to everyone who attended Homerama. We also had the opportunity, which is what you're looking at here, to do a 2-page spread in Center Grove magazine. I was able to write this content and help coordinate with some of those images to get this put together. They did, I think, 5,000 copies of that, went to everybody who attended Homerama, and it also was mailed to everyone who lives in Center Grove. So that was a fun project this year. In regards to video production, we continued our new department head video series with Kevin as the new utilities manager. That video is up. It's on the town's Facebook page. You can go take a look at that. That was a fun one this year. And we'll continue to do that, as new department heads come into the town. Some of the miscellaneous tasks that came up throughout the year, I assisted writing a letter to residents and businesses along Baldwin Street prior to construction in an effort to improve communication with those people that would be affected by construction, give them information on the project as well as contacts within the town if they had any questions. And I continued posting and being an admin on the town's Facebook and Nextdoor pages. And in conjunction with that, we worked on launching the My Civic, which became the My Bargersville app, which is the image that you're seeing to the right there. That is up and live and able for residents, customers to download. I worked with Kevin on all those meetings with the Tyler Technologies on making the final adjustments to the app. And also, just as a note, I have calls with Julie twice a month. We talk for about half an hour about the most recent things going on in her department and any updates, any active media requests, things like that. That's been a pretty successful cadence as far as keeping myself updated and Julie as well. Looking ahead 2022, some of the things we're looking forward to doing, the first state of the town. Looking forward to doing that early 2022. Working with Julie on that in those conversations already, as that takes a few months of planning. working on the police station groundbreaking and construction as that proceeds next year. Kephart Park as that continues to be under construction, develops next year. I look forward to doing some videos, images, things like that, press release, whatever whatever it calls for at that particular stage, to let people know about that. The big one, I-69, still growing, coming through. The intersection of Bargersville will, I believe, have a lot of action next year. So I'm on top of keeping track of that timeline, and hopefully we can get a lot of good content for the town from that. And then one of the newer things we've been doing is the interviews for the firms for the rebranding for the town. So we're meeting tomorrow to discuss a wrap up of those interviews that have been taking place. I've been fortunate to be a part of that. Here's my contact information. Again, that's the media email that we created that's been successful. My cell phone number. On a personal note, 2022 will be the 4th year that I've been working with the town in this capacity, and it's been really fun putting all these different processes in place, working on all the different media accounts, and growing things as the town needs them each year, the new projects that come up. So thank you so much for consideration in my contract, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laura. I have some requests from individuals about expanding our social media to Twitter and to Instagram.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so the town had Twitter and Instagram pages, and the historically interaction had been pretty slim on those. So we discussed toning that down as the staff members kind of changed who were managing social media accounts. But if there's specific requests, we can absolutely start adding those back into the fold.
Because a lot of people aren't on Facebook anymore. So.
Okay, absolutely, yeah. And as those technologies grow and fluctuate and usability and different platforms come online, we can look at what's appropriate for the town as far as reaching the most residents or utility customers, those sort of items. I'll go ahead and sit down and let you finish. Thank you.
Laura. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, motions?
Mr. President, I move to approve the media relations contract for the year 2022, not to exceed $26,400.
I have a motion by Mr. Gore,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Thank you all so much.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
see you tomorrow.
The next item I have for your consideration today involves the boardroom table here. So I have a proposal for a new table, and then also a proposal from Nichols to put a face on this table and then a new skin on the top of it, if you will, and then also some assistance so that we can hide all the wiring that we need to have modern technology for that table.
So did Nichols give you a timeline as to what?
They would be able to do this, it would be in December before they could be able to fit that in their schedule. And they would need it for about a week, they said.
It's quite a difference.
It is a
30,000 to
significant
7,000.
difference.
But you think we should go with the $30,000?
It gets priced at the higher amount so that you see what the budget impact is. I would.
Okay, here we go.
I think Nichols would do a good job for what we need. That's where this table came from, I believe, was Nichols itself.
I'll make a motion to approve the Nichols estimate at an amount not to exceed $7,446.50.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Raymond, second, Ms. Wall. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. None opposed.
And I have one additional item that's not on the agenda today. I have Trent Newport and Zach Berniger here to provide an update on Kephart Park. We'll allow them a few minutes of your time.
Great.
Good afternoon. Trent Newport with Crossroad Engineers, and Zach with Shrewsbury is with me here as well. So we had a committee meeting last week that involved Andrew and Susie and two park board members, the president and vice president, is that correct? Keith and Rhonda, and then Zach and myself and Cameron with Shrewsbury as well. And kind of work through some things that are going to kind of change up the schedule a little bit. So we kind of want to just come and summarize that. We had bids that we took for what was going to be phase one, which is the entrances and paths along 144 and Saddle Club. And then if you remember, we had tried to bundle that with the path project. We had one bidder and it did not come in as a good bid in our opinion. And so we are recommending to reject that bid and actually, based on the committee meeting that we had, split the projects back out and bid them separately. In our meeting for phase one, we want to add several things. Committee would like to add pickleball tennis courts, as well as a bigger parking area for that, a couple of shelters that are there next to those courts, and then kind of set up for a playground and an area for a playground that might be a separate project, kind of a design build, which is typically done with those larger playgrounds. And so that kind of makes it more of a unique project, and bundling it with the path might not be the best thing to do. And we can get the path out to bid quicker. I still would like to hold off on bidding the path until December, just because I think one of the reasons we didn't get very many bidders is just how busy everybody is right now. And actually, some of the people that we were trying to get bids from are smaller companies that are out there doing the work and bidding the work, and I think they're just swamped. And so we're hoping that if we split that back out, we would go to a bid for the path in December. We would bid late January, early February for phase one of the park, go to contracts here at council in February, into March, get them started in March. And again, that would include, like we said, the dual tennis pickleball parking area kind of on that north end, perhaps only one entrance, and then the trails along the road, and then a setup for the playground, which would be kind of a phase 1B design build by itself and could be done on the heels of that. So in other words, if phase one starts for the park in March or April, weather depending, and hopefully we're done by fall, and the playground can come in the summertime as well, when that area is ready for them to do that. And then phase two, what we talked about, and we're going to have monthly meetings with this committee, so there's a lot more to work out in the details, but phase two, what we talked about is having a splash pad, restrooms, additional parking for those facilities that we're talking about, and then maybe we might work on that trail connection up to the neighborhoods. For phase one, we might just do that in stone. I think that area's been cleared. The trees have been cleared through the woods, so our range dropped. And then phase two, what we're hoping to do is get to a bid in the summertime and actually get started on some of those things in late summer, early fall, and see how much we could get done by the end of the year. There's some of those items like the pour in place, what they call a pour in place for the playground and splash pad, that they're temperature sensitive to get down. So with that, so that's kind of the schedule in a nutshell. I guess first of all, any questions about that schedule, and did I reflect it all correctly? Okay.
So Trent, just to
clarify, this would not affect what you think our ability is to get the paths, to connect the paths all the way from Whiteland all the way to downtown by 4th of July, like you previously promised.
Correct.
In public meeting.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
All right, here's the knife.
I'm not sure promise is the right word. We could go back to the record and see. I'm willing to go back to the record. No, I don't think, honestly, we will bid all through the winter for projects that'll start in the spring. And so I don't think that's it. I think we're going to get, we're going to work a little bit harder to talk some people into bidding on this. But I think that narrowing it down to just drainage work and path work kind of opens it up to where I can hit a little bit more on some of the contractors that just do that. So no, I don't think the schedule is going to suffer at all on a path job.
Sounds good.
We will have, and I know, Andrew, you'd asked about coming, if we had any additional fees to go along with that, these added things, the added elements, and those added elements, are compared to what we had in phase 1 and phase 2, which we're under contract for. We've added, the splash pad, all the parking area, because we were only doing about half of it before, restrooms and utilities to those restrooms, and then the tennis and pickleball courts. So I've got actually what I need from Zach. I'm working on my end to get to you a proposal for that supplemental. And the biggest thing is I've got to figure out where we're going to bring sewer from. So I'm in the middle of doing some research to figure out where there's some new sewer in the area, but I got to see if it's deep enough and can we get it there via gravity, which is what we'd prefer, or do we need to do a pump, something like that. And so I've got to get my head around that a little bit, and then I can get a proposal that we can either come back in here and present, or at least can go to Julie, and then we can go from there. That does not mean we are not working towards, the goal that we talked about in the schedule. Even with, Zach and I were talking about getting the sanitary lateral in, even though the restrooms aren't going to be until phase 2. We might need to get those in depending on where they're coming from in phase 1, but just pipe stubs in and so forth. So I'll have that to Julie within a week's time, if not less.
Trent, do you think it makes sense for you guys to just basically plan on coming here once a month, give us an update?
I think that'd be good. Yeah. And we're doing, I think we picked the third Thursdays for the committee meeting.
Yeah.
So which meeting would you prefer? This one?
Yeah.
The 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yep, we can plan on it. Any questions?
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bertram, your big presentation today?
I don't have anything.
I was looking forward to it.
Everything.
Everything.
To keep things down to a minimum. You don't want to hear from me.
It's in order, okay.
If you're hearing from me, it's bad.
Okay, well, I have a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
There's Kevin.
I know, they always do. They should put you in front of me,
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I'd like to see that video on, if we could.
There's a connection issue.
Jordan, Steve.
Okay. First item on the agenda is 2 Cent Road Sanitary proposal from Crossroad Engineers. This is for the survey and easement acquisition for our 2 Cent Road force main. Trent is obviously here and can answer any questions, but proposal is for $67,000. And we've actually already had a couple meetings with Strand and getting prepared for this. So this is running the force main from 135 2 Cent Road intersection and the 2 Cent Road lift station straight to the plant, which is going to relieve flow and capacity in that area.
This is a part of the development, the mixed multi-use development that's on the corner of 2 Cent.
Yeah, this has to happen for that to take place.
So
I expect that they will be dedicating the easements that we need to do what we need to do. So
Right.
this is for the other properties beyond those.
Right, this is running west to 400 and then north on 400 straight to the
We
plant.
don't have the easements already.
We've got some water easements in the area and we're looking at if we can use those or if there's enough separation, or we may have to jump to the other side of the road. So this will cover us for that.
All the way to the
All the way.
plant from the
Yep.
intersection.
Yep.
How big is I've already put it in there?
I believe it's a 12-inch pipe. Yeah, 12-inch pipe. So Strand is doing the design on that, and then Trent will be doing the survey. And
And then easement acquisition. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve Crossroads Engineering for the Houston Road proposal for surveying easements not to exceed $67,000.
Motion by Mrs. Balls, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ball, all in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye, none opposed.
thank you. The next item is INDOT. So we discussed this multiple times. We've come to the council for different exhibits, approving expenditures for water and sanitary improvements in that area. And costs have gone up a little bit. INDOT has now invoiced us for some of the work. So I have an invoice for about $2.3 million that we need to process this week. The 2.8 plus on your agenda sheet should cover all of the work in the area. We just haven't been invoiced for all of it. And we wanted to make sure that we reflect in the minutes that the county can process those INDOT invoices as they come in up to a certain dollar amount, with obviously the bulk of it hopefully being paid out this week. And not all the work's done yet, so that's why we're hoping it's going to come in lower. But the INDOT portion of the force main is complete and is going under pressure testing as we speak. And then the 16-inch water main, we still need to construct at Smith Valley Road. So still work in progress, but they have invoiced us.
Kevin, to clarify, the 2.8 is an increase of, like, back in November of 2020, there was a 2.5 number.
Yeah.
So this is a
Materials.
roughly a 300,000, not a $2 million
Right.
increase.
Right.
So this is a $300,000 increase
Correct.
over what we had a year ago.
Correct.
Almost, okay. Which is roughly a 15% increase.
This is up to 2.8, it may, that's what it may come.
Yeah, if we come in over this number, I'm gonna have to come back to you because something has happened,
Okay.
something drastic has happened with the project that will require me to come see the council again.
I'll make a motion to approve request for the change order for the increase in cost of materials for the I-69 project. Amount not to exceed $2,853,366.81.
Motion by Mr. Noel, give a second by Mrs. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye, none opposed.
Thank you. Next item is some network upgrades for our computer systems here. We're looking at updating some equipment at all sites just to bring things to current standards, and currently have a budget for this project at $74,845.98. If approved, we'll purchase this equipment as soon as we can due to supply chain issues, and then this project will probably take us into 2022 before it's complete.
Is that what you said, the two quotes put together, you just add those out?
Yeah, that was, we were looking at maybe doing a phase one and a phase two, but after I looked at the budget and being able to buy all the equipment at once, my recommendation is let's just do it and buy everything. And I don't have to come back.
2021 budget.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the network upgrades purchase request for $74,845.98.
Motion by Mr. Doyle,
I'll second.
a second by Ms. Pauls.
Should be not to exceed.
Not to exceed that.
Adding not to exceed. I have a second by Ms. Pauls. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. None opposed.
Thank you. The next item, kind of excited about this one. So this is a partnership with the town of Whiteland. The fire department has surplus on one of their vehicles. And if you recall, about a year ago, we tried to look at purchasing a trailer for sewer department. So we've come back with another option. Whiteland Town Council, by resolution, I believe, has surplus the vehicle, which allows us to purchase. So the vehicle itself is, I believe, $7,500, and this is I believe, a 2003 old Medic truck that they're no longer using, but in pretty good shape. So purchase of the vehicle, obviously we need to change the graphics a little bit. Yeah. Change out the lights, take the red lights off of it, and a little bit of maintenance. But, my goal is to stay under $16,600 for the total project and be a nice addition. So this vehicle will be used for the camera, sewer camera and equipment. It's all kept on one vehicle.
I saw this used down in Edinburgh.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep.
Kind of the same type of.
Yeah, kind of where I got the idea
version,
from.
And it actually worked very well.
Yep.
Yeah. And the computer systems on the inside worked very well. So thanks for seeking this out.
And this is about a third of the trailer cost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the trailer was 25 plus. Was it a little more? Okay.
Plus we need a vehicle to tow it.
Yeah.
This one's all in one. Yeah. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve $16,600 for the request of a vehicle from Whiteland to purchase sewer camera unit.
We have a motion by Mrs. Qual,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let's see.
It'll be much needed asset. So the next item is engineering for Cedar Hills Watermain improvement project. So it's our goal, and what I've learned in the last year, easements and right-of-way acquisition are taking much longer than I ever would have thought for projects. So we want to get ahead on this project and start working on that and working on the design of water line replacement for Cedar Hills, which is Saddle Club Road in between Stones Crossing and Smoky Row. That subdivision has 2-inch, 4-inch, 3-inch cast iron mains. So the project would be similar to what we did up in Old Smith Valley, where we go in and replace all the mains, new hydrants, new meter pits, just a fresh system. So Sam with the VS Engineering is here if we have questions specifically on this project. I think this is roughly 29,000 feet,
About 5 miles.
5 miles of pipe that we're looking at.
That's a long way.
Yeah.
This way back in.
I'm hoping with the large state lots that are in that area, that easement or right of way is not going to be difficult for us. So I'm hoping that's going to help out and folks will welcome us to the area. Another positive is trying to get this, what I would call shovel ready. So as future money, whether it be from the federal government or grants become available, this project will be designed and the easements will be taken care of. That would roll out much faster. Technically, this is not slated until our second round of bonds in 2025. But we would like to go ahead and get the design now. And like I said, get the easements taken care of.
What do you anticipate the costs for the actual improvements to be?
Jim, do you remember off the top of your head? I think we're looking at 4 million potentially.
It would be in that neighborhood, yeah, depending on the difficulty of the roads and the streets.
Today's dollars.
Correct. And depending on how other projects go, and how they come in on bid for this first round of capital improvement projects, we may be able to move this up and take, maybe, save some money on construction and so forth, so.
Project's part of the bond, that would this be reimbursable through that bond, or was it on this?
So with this being initially part of the second bond, so that bond technically wouldn't be until 2025. We most likely will use local funds for this, which is not a problem. And if Scott says it's okay that we can reimburse in the second bond or the first bond, if there's dollars left over, then we certainly will.
Make a motion to approve the Cedar Hills Watermain improvement in the amount not to exceed $364,780.
I have a motion from Mr. Doyle. Have a second? Second by Mr. Greenwood. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda is some cleanup on agreements for bonds and rate studies. Scott is here. If you have any questions, so we've got Baker Tilly agreements and the underwriter agreement that we need to get signed today. So I didn't know if we could get a motion. Sam has all the agreements for president or vice president to sign.
So we're just looking for signatures on that, on the
Yeah,
agreement.
we've got, I believe, a total of 5. I think there's
Aye.
5 agreements.
We need to do them separately.
I don't know.
You could probably do them all.
Okay.
One, finalize what they are. These are what they are.
Yes, Andrew.
He's got
Let's go.
He's got the best eyesight, let's just say it. I don't.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the agreements for the bonds and rate studies for the 5 that are presented in the amount not to exceed $272,500.
In a signature.
And the signature by the president or vice president to execute contract.
I have a motion from Mr. Doyle.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Qualls. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. Aye. None opposed.
Great. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Todd, you ready yet? I see you studying.
Studying notes.
Okay. Anything else? I know we have the trunk or treat on Saturday, the 30th from 6 to 8. Anything else? Okay.
Go to adjourn.
Second. Have a second. We're adjourned.